Hello everyone. Today we are going to study about the female reproductive physiology. Okay, female reproductive physiology. What are the changes that occur in the female reproductive system during her puberty as well as during the pregnancy? What are the steps of the ovulation? What are the mechanism of ovulation? And similarly we will study about the oogenesis. Okay, so as well as we will study about the hypothesis. Okay, and so the natural function of the estrogen, progesterone. Okay, so these are the today's topic. Okay, so it will cover all the concepts of the female reproductive physiology. Okay, and this video will be helpful for every student who are doing MBBS or in NEET-PG preparation. Okay, so in the female reproductive physiology we need to understand about menstrual cycle. Okay, so this menstrual cycle, it occurs. Okay, this is the cyclical loss of the blood from the vagina. Okay, that occurs at the end of the menstrual phase or menstrual cycle, and this menstrual cycle is given as two names: menstrual cycle and estrus cycle. In the mammals, in all the mammals, you can see this cycle of loss of blood, but it is there is some difference in the some characters of the cycle is different. So there is some difference, and based upon that difference we have distinguished this cycle as menstrual cycle and estrus cycle. In the human as well as in the primates, okay, this is known as menstrual cycle, but remaining other mammals, it is known as estrus cycle. Okay, it is known as estrus cycle. In the menstrual cycle, vaginal bleeding occurs. Okay, there is bleeding from the vagina and it is cyclical movement, whereas in the case of estrus cycle there is only increase in the body temperature. Okay, there is increase in the body temperature of the female person, as well as there is sexual attraction of the female toward the male. Okay, and it indicates that this is the time of ovulation, this is the time of release of ova. Okay, it indicates that. So here, this menstrual cycle and estrous cycle, I think you can distinguish among these two. First we have the menstrual cycle. So menstrual cycle, the total duration of the menstrual cycle is 28 days. Okay, it's 28 days. Now what are the changes? The changes occurring simultaneously in ovary and the uterus, that is menstrual cycle phases. Okay, menstrual cycle phases means changes that occur simultaneously in the ovary as well as in the uterus. So we can divide this menstrual cycle into two phases. First as ovarian phases. Okay, the changes that occur in the ovary, and the changes that occur in the uterus, that is uterine phase. So one is ovarian phase, another is uterine phase. Now further, these two phases, they occur simultaneously at the same time. Okay, some changes is occurring in the ovary as well as at the same time some changes are occurring in the uterus. So it is a simultaneously occurring process. Okay, and in the ovarian phase we can divide it into further three parts. Okay, further three phases. One is follicular phase. Okay, another is ovulation, and another is luteal phase. So in the follicular phase itself, it is denoting that there is development of the follicle, that is Graafian follicle, from the primordial follicle. Okay, and it takes a time of 14 days, 1 to 14 days. It starts from day 1 to day 14. I will give you the screenshot at the last. Okay, now ovulation it occurs at the day 14. Okay, now luteal phase means the phase in which there is formation of the corpus luteum occurs, and it lasts for 15 to 28 days. Okay, now after ovulation the follicle will convert into corpus luteum, and if the pregnancy occurs, if the fusion of the male and female gamete occurs in the ampulla of fallopian tube, then this luteum will convert into corpus luteum of pregnancy. But if there is no fusion, then this corpus luteum will start to degenerate after 25th day of menstrual cycle. Now simultaneously there is uterine phase, and this uterine phase includes menstrual phase, proliferative phase, and secretory phase. Okay, so this menstrual phase that lasts for 1 to 5 days. Okay, its duration is 1 to 5 days, and it start from the start of bleeding. Okay, in the menstrual phase we can indicate it as bleeding. The day when the bleeding start, that is the start of the menstrual phase. Now next we have the proliferative phase. Proliferative means proliferation of the endometrial lining, so that there is implantation of the blastocyst. So it lasts for day 6 to day 14. Okay, its time duration is starting from 6th day to 14th day of the menstrual cycle. Next we have secretory phase. So this secretory phase, it lasts for 15 to 28 days. Okay, so that is secretory phase, means there is secretion of the glands. Okay, and that glandular secretion helps to maintain the endometrium for the implantation, as well as maintains the pregnancy. And next important thing is that LLS receptor, luteinizing hormone receptor, these receptor are present on the granulosa cell of the ovary. Okay, as well as theca cell of the ovary. So in the ovary, where we have the follicles, like the ovarian follicles, and these follicles, they have granulosa cell, theca cell. Okay, you can see in this figure that we have, these are the cells. Okay, so these are the granulosa cells, and these granulosa cells, they have the receptor for the LS, and LS will bind to this receptor and promotes the maturation and proliferation of these follicles. Okay, so next we have FSS. Okay, one is LS, another is FSS. FSS has its receptor on the granulosa cell. Okay, FSS has receptor on the granulosa cell, LS has receptor on the granulosa cell, as well as theca cell. So these are the receptor variation. Now in the different phases, we have to know the level of the estrogen, progesterone, and how these levels will do the LS search. Okay, so we need to understood, in this case we have to understood that there is gonadotropin releasing hormone, the hormone that is releasing from the hypothalamus. So this gonadotropin releasing hormone released from the hypothalamus, it will stimulate the anterior pituitary to release LS and FSS. So when there is continuous secretion of this gonadotropin releasing hormone, there is no secretion of LS and FSS. But if there is pulsatile secretion of GnRH, then there is secretion of LS and FSS will occur. So the process of ovulation, we need LS surge, and for LS surge we need high level of estrogen, and that estrogen level should be more than 300% than the normal level of estrogen. So if the estrogen level is 300% more than the normal, then it should remain for at least 2 days. Okay, the level of the estrogen should be elevated more than 3% in the usual blood level, and it should be elevated for more than 2 days, then only it will give a positive feedback. Okay, normally if there is estrogen level in the blood and it increases to around 100%, okay, than the normal level, then that will cause a negative feedback, okay, on the receptor present on the pituitary as well as hypothalamus to decrease the secretion of GnRH as well as LH and FSH. But if its level is more than 300% the normal level, then that estrogen, its negative feedback will convert into positive feedback on the hypothalamus as well as on the pituitary. So it will lead to increased secretion of GnRH from hypothalamus as well as LH and FSH from the pituitary. So this will cause LH surge, means increase in the level of LH. Okay, so that LH surge, it will causes changes, okay, at the level of the follicle present in the ovary. That LH surge is responsible to cause changes in the follicle of the ovary, means there is a swelling of the granulosa cell that is surrounding the secondary oocyte. Okay, so that will get rupture, and after the rupture there will be release of the oocyte, and that is, this process is known as ovulation. Okay, now this ruptured follicle, it will change to form the corpus luteum. Why this is called luteum? Luteum means luteal cells. These are fat cells. These are yellowish colored fat cells, and they are rich in the fat. So this LS surge, not only it will, first there we have the menstrual phase, means there is bleeding for 1 to 14 days, there is bleeding. Now after the bleeding, what we have seen, first there we have the follicular phase. Now in the follicular phase there is proliferation as well as maturation of the follicle, and finally formation of the Graafian follicle. After that, due to LS surge, there is ovulation. Then that ovulation, that LS surge, that will initiate the luteal phase, and in this luteal phase means due to the LS surge, and there is predominance of the corpus luteum. So this luteal phase, okay, this is starting of the luteal phase, and in the luteal phase there is very high level of progesterone and then the estrogen. Normally in the follicular phase, okay, in the follicular phase the estrogen is very higher than the progesterone, but in the luteal phase the progesterone level is very high than the estrogen level. So when the progesterone level is very high than the estrogen level, this progesterone will cause negative feedback on the hypothalamus as well as on the pituitary, and this negative feedback will cause decrease in the secretion from hypothalamus as well as pituitary. So it will decrease LH, okay, it will decrease the level of LH, and we already deal that due to LH there is luteal phase, means there is corpus luteum. But if there is decrease in LH, there will be degeneration of this corpus luteum. Okay, this corpus luteum will start to degenerate, means there is death of the corpus luteum, and this degeneration of corpus luteum, it occurs 4 days before the onset of the menstruation. Okay, so menstruation usually occur after the end of the menstrual cycle, that is 20th day. After the 20th day, so around the 25th day, okay, there is degeneration of the corpus luteum occurs. Now there is death of the corpus luteum. Now death of the corpus luteum, the corpus luteum is a follicle that is secreting progesterone in high quantity than the estrogen, so that progesterone will now get decrease. If it is died, then there is decrease in the progesterone level. Now this decrease in the progesterone level means the progesterone is a hormone that is also known as pregnancy hormone, means it is maintaining the pregnancy. And how the pregnancy is maintained? By the supply of the blood, by the supply of the blood by the spiral artery. And when this progesterone is decreased, this artery is not going to supply, there will be spasm of the artery, there will be degeneration of the spiral artery, and this degeneration of the spiral artery, there will be necrosis as well as, means there is no blood supply to the endometrial lining, so there will be necrosis. Okay, there will be degenerative cells in the endometrium of the uterine cavity. Okay, all the cells that are present there, they will start to die, and after the death there will be sludging of the endometrium. Sludging of the endometrium means there is loss of the blood, menstrual blood, and which we call as menstruation. So I think you understood about the menstrual cycle. So in a menstrual cycle we have two phases. One, changes occurring in the ovary, changes occurring in the uterus. In the ovary there is follicular phase, follicles are maturing and they are converted into Graafian follicle. Finally there occur ovulation at the 14th day. After that there is formation of corpus luteum, that is luteal phase, and that corpus luteum is doing changes in the endometrium, that is uterine phase. So in the uterine phase, that is respond. First there is proliferative phase, then there is secretory phase. So in the proliferative phase there is influence of the estrogen, in the secretory phase there is influence of the progesterone. So finally if the corpus luteum dies, then there is decrease in progesterone. Decrease in progesterone will lead to loss of this endometrial lining in the form of menstruation. So this is about menstrual phase, okay, menstrual cycle. Now the important points we have to need to understand that this corpus luteum, what is the lifespan of the corpus luteum? So the corpus luteum usually survives for 14 days. If the fertilization occurs, then this corpus luteum will survive up to 8 weeks of pregnancy. Okay, 8 weeks of gestation. Okay, up to 8 weeks of gestation. So this after that, okay, after 8th week of gestation, there will be a proper development of the placenta, and the placenta will take over the function of the corpus luteum. So there is no need of corpus luteum, so it will start to degenerate there. Now 14th days, the luteal phase in the ovary, that is due to the LSR, there is a start of the luteal phase. And when the corpus luteum is in the ovary, there is high progesterone, because corpus luteum is secreting high level of progesterone. So high progesterone, and that progesterone is responsible for the secretory changes occurring in the uterus. Okay, now in the secretory changes, what are the changes that include secretory changes? There will be gland become tortoise. Okay, gland become tortoise. Now ovulation. Okay, ovulation, important points about ovulation. So ovulation in a woman who has a normal 28-day female sexual cycle. Okay, normal menstrual cycle, duration of normal menstrual cycle is around 28 days, and the ovulation will occur at the 14th day. Okay, the ovulation will occur at the 14th day after the onset of the menstruation. From the onset of menstruation, the ovulation will occur every 14th day. So now this ovulation, we have to understand ovulation on different perspective. Okay, from the onset of menstruation, it takes 14 days for the ovulation to occur. Now after the estradiol rise, after the estrogen rise, it will take 83 hours. Okay, it will take 83 hours. Okay, so there is a rise in the level of estrogen, and from the rise in the level of estrogen, it will take 83 hours to ovulation. Okay, so this another estradiol peak, one is rise of the estradiol, another is peak of the estradiol. So it will take 24 to 36 hours of the estradiol peak. Means when the estradiol or estrogen reaches at its peak level, ovulation will occur after 24 to 36 hours. Now next, this ovulation will occur 24 to 36 hours or 34 to 36 hours after the onset of the LSRs. So LSRs means highly elevated level of the LS, but there should be one, the LH is now started to rise, that is onset of the LSRs. It will take a time of 24 to 36 hours. Now its value is different in different books, like in Canons it is 24 to 36 hours. It will follow 24 to 36 hours after the onset of the LSRs. Now this about 9 hours, okay, about 9 hours or 10 to 12 hours after the LS peak. So when the LH just start to rise, okay, when there is onset of the LH surge, it will take a time of 24 to 36 hours. Now when there is LH peak, it will take only 9 hours for the ovulation, or 10 to 12 hours for the ovulation. Okay, now ovulation occur about 8 hours of the progesterone rise. Okay, progesterone rise. Okay, so it will take a time of 8 hours. Now interval between ovulation and LH surge is 24 to 48 hours. Okay, mechanism of ovulation. Okay, so the ovulation actually it is occurring finally due to the LH surge. Now this LH surge, first there should be LH surge. Okay, due to LH surge there will be release of the progesterone. Now this progesterone is actually proteolytic enzyme, and that proteolytic enzyme means it is a collagenase. Okay, it is present inside the follicle, and it will cause the weakening of the follicle wall, and due to the weakening of the follicular wall there will be rupture of the follicle, and there will be evagination of the ovum. Now similarly we have follicular hyperemia. Okay, follicular hyperemia and prostaglandin secretion. Now this follicular hyperemia, it will do the fluid from the plasma enter into the follicle, and it will do plasma transudation, means there will be swelling of the follicle. Okay, and this swelling of the follicle will lead to rupture of the follicle, and rupture of the follicle will lead to evagination of the ovum. So this way, this is the mechanism of ovulation. We need to understand about the duration of the ovulation. Okay, what is the exact time when the ovulation occur? Okay, because there is variation in the duration of the menstrual cycle in different ladies. Okay, so we need to understand one point, that the length of the luteal phase or the secretory phase, it is fixed, it does not changes. Okay, that is, it depend upon the corpus luteum duration. So we need to understood that the duration of the interval between the ovulation and the menstrual bleeding, it remains constant. Okay, so if there is change in the time period of the ovulation, if there is variation in the ovulation period, then there will be change in the menstrual phase. Okay, there will be increase in the duration of the menstrual phase or menstrual cycle. So for example, if the ovulation period is 14 days, then the total duration of the menstrual cycle will be 14 plus 14 is equal to 28 days. So if the time period of the ovulation is more than 14 days, then the duration of the menstrual cycle will be increased. So it is telling us that the interval between this ovulation and the menstrual bleeding is always 14 days. So we have to subtract the total duration. Okay, we have to subtract the total duration between the ovulation and the menstrual bleeding from the total duration of the menstrual cycle. For example, if a female has a menstrual cycle duration of 24 days, then we have to subtract 14 days, 24 minus 14, then it comes 10. So 10th day she will ovulate. For example, a female has a menstrual cycle of 28 days, then 28 minus 14, it will be 14th days. So the ovulation day will be 14th day. Similarly, a female with 30 day of menstrual cycle, so 30 minus 14, it will be 16th day is the day of ovulation. Similarly, we can calculate these are the days. So one important MCQ that will come from this. So this is all about the menstruation and physiology of the female reproductive system. And next other oogenesis as well as other topics we will read in next part of the video. So if you like the video, please subscribe and share among your friends. Thanks for watching till the end.